At exactly 2:17 a.m., two twin boys took their first breath in the same hospital. 25 years later, one would inherit a billion-dollar empire while the other struggled to survive in poverty. They were never meant to be separated, but one terrified nurse, one tragic accident, and one desperate decision changed their lives forever. For 25 years, the truth remained buried. Inside the hospital's VIP maternity suite, Victoria Brooks lay asleep after hours of labor. Beside her rested her newborn son, the only heir to the Brooks family's billion-dollar empire. Richard Brooks quietly left the room to thank the doctors. Moments later, Nurse Emily entered to check on the baby. She gently lifted him into her arms, unaware that one small mistake was about to change the families forever. Emily carried the baby toward the nursery, her footsteps echoing through the quiet hallway. There was no one around. As she adjusted the blanket wrapped around the newborn, her grip suddenly slipped.
"No!"
She screamed. The tiny infant fell from her hands onto the hard floor. Emily rushed to pick him up, shaking with fear. The baby didn't cry. Within seconds, his tiny body stopped breathing, and panic consumed her. Emily's hands trembled as she desperately tried to wake the baby. "Please, please breathe," she whispered through tears. But the tiny infant remained still. She looked up and down the empty hallway. No one had seen what happened. Fear overwhelmed her. She imagined losing her nursing license, being arrested, and spending the rest of her life behind bars. Then she remembered another mother on the same floor, a poor woman who had just given birth to healthy twin boys. Emily wiped the tears from her face and ran toward another maternity room. Inside, Sarah Patel lay asleep after giving birth to identical twin boys. Her husband, Michael, had dozed off beside her bed, exhausted. The two newborns slept peacefully in their bassinets. Emily stood frozen for a moment, battling her conscience. Then, with trembling hands, she gently lifted one of the twins and hurried back to the Brooks family's private suite. With tears filling her eyes, Emily placed the Patel twin in the nursery after swapping the babies carefully. The baby stirred gently, then drifted back to sleep. Before sunrise, doctors informed Michael and Sarah that one of their newborn sons had suddenly died. Their world shattered in an instant. The tiny white coffin was lowered into the ground as Sarah and Michael wept uncontrollably. They believed they were saying goodbye to one of their own sons, never knowing the child they buried belonged to another family. From that day on, Jonathan grew up believing he had lost his twin brother forever. Across the city, Ethan Brooks was raised in unimaginable luxury, completely unaware that his real family struggled each day just to survive. Years passed, and the difference between the two brothers became impossible to ignore. Ethan Brooks grew up inside a luxurious mansion, surrounded by servants, private tutors, and every opportunity money could buy. Across town, Jonathan Patel wore hand-me-down clothes and often skipped meals so his parents could eat. Though their lives were worlds apart, both young men shared the same kind heart, the same smile, and the same face, but neither knew why. Jonathan spent the day helping his parents with work, dreaming of giving them a better life, while Ethan Brooks attended the company's business meetings and prepared to inherit his family's empire. Though surrounded by luxury, he often felt something was missing. Neither man knew they were identical twins, separated by a secret that had remained hidden for 25 years. Ambitiously, Jonathan promised to change his parents' lives forever. Across the city, Ethan worked diligently and tirelessly. Neither knew that fate was already moving them toward a truth that would change both families forever and uncover a secret buried for 25 years. As the years passed, Ethan became known as the future CEO of Brooks Industries, while Jonathan worked part-time jobs to help his struggling parents pay the bills. One rainy evening, Ethan's luxury SUV lost control on a slippery road and crashed into a concrete barrier. The impact left him unconscious and badly injured. Paramedics rushed him to the nearest hospital as Richard and Victoria followed in tears. After examining Ethan, the doctors delivered heartbreaking news. He had lost too much blood. Without an immediate blood transfusion from a matching donor, he wouldn't survive the night. The hospital searched desperately for a compatible donor, but every test ended in disappointment. Richard Brooks watched helplessly as doctors raced against time. By coincidence, Jonathan was at the same hospital, visiting his sick mother. Hearing the desperate call for a blood donor, he stepped forward without hesitation. After testing his blood, the doctors froze. It was a perfect match. Without asking a single question, Jonathan agreed to save a stranger's life. Ethan's surgery was successful, but one doctor couldn't ignore something unusual. Jonathan and Ethan didn't just share the same rare blood type, their facial features were almost identical. Curious, The doctor ordered a DNA test to rule out a possible family connection. Richard and Victoria agreed, believing it was only a routine procedure. Jonathan had no reason to object. None of them imagined the results would uncover a secret buried for 25 years. Days later, the DNA results arrived in a sealed envelope. The doctor opened the file, and his expression instantly changed. He read the report again, unable to believe what he was seeing. Richard and Victoria watched anxiously, while Jonathan stood silently beside the door. Finally, the doctor looked up and said, "This can't be right. Unless there was a baby switch at this hospital 25 years ago." The room fell silent. Richard immediately demanded another test, convinced the results were wrong. A second DNA analysis was performed using fresh samples. 2 days later, the report confirmed the same shocking truth. Jonathan and Ethan were identical twins. Neither Richard nor Victoria was Jonathan's biological parent. Somehow, the hospital had made a mistake on the very night both boys were born. As the shocking news spread through the hospital, Nurse Emily overheard 2 doctors discussing the DNA results. Her face turned pale, and her hands began to shake. For 25 years, she had prayed this day would never come. The guilt she had buried deep inside her heart came rushing back. Unable to bear it any longer, Emily walked toward the hospital director's office. She knew the time had come to tell the truth. Before we reveal the truth, take 1 second to hit that follow button. It helps us bring you more unforgettable stories like this. Now, let's uncover the secret that changed her families forever. Emily slowly opened the director's office door, tears streaming down her face. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I have something to confess." Every eye turned toward her. Taking a deep breath, she admitted that 25 years earlier, she had accidentally dropped the Brooks family's newborn while carrying him to the nursery. Terrified of losing everything, she made one desperate decision that destroyed 2 families forever. Through tears, Emily confessed everything. She explained how she had secretly taken one of Sarah Patel's twin boys and placed him beside the sleeping Victoria Brooks. Then she returned the Brooks baby to the Patel family's room, making everyone believe one of the twins had died. The room fell silent. Sarah collapsed into Michael's arms, while Richard and Victoria stood frozen, unable to believe the truth they had just heard. The hospital was shaken by Emily's confession. Doctors reopened the old records and found proof that Ethan was Sarah and Michael Patel's missing son. Richard was devastated, but he knew the love he gave Ethan is genuine. As both families finally faced the truth, they wondered if the 2 brothers separated at birth could rebuild the bond they lost after so many years. Although Sarah wanted Emily to spend the rest of her life in jail, but her husband, Michael, told her that for someone to woke up confessing her bad deeds, Chev must be really sorry. Besides, she didn't intentionally plan for the accident to happen, so Emily was forgiven. Ethan felt like his entire world has fallen apart. The name he carried, the family he knew, and his childhood memories were suddenly filled with questions. Victoria and Richard wanted their son back, but they understood his pain. Richard held back his tears and promised Ethan that nothing could change their bond. Victoria could not stop thinking about Emily's confession. She finally asked the question everyone had avoided for years. Why would Emily risk everything to switch the babies? With tears in her eyes, Victoria wished it was all just a movie, a prank, or a bad dream. She had spent years raising a child, only to suddenly realize that he wasn't her biological son. Her heart pounded as memories of every birthday, every bedtime story, and every hug rushed through her mind. If he wasn't her son, then where was her real child buried? Desperate for answers, she cried and cried and cried. The day finally arrived when the 2 brothers stood face to face for the first time. Jonathan and his twin stared at each other, seeing a reflection of the life they never shared. Neither knew what to say. Sarah and Michael watched with tears as they realized the bond between the brothers was still there after all those years. But before the family could celebrate, Ethan looked Emily in the eyes and asked a question that broke her heart. Why me? The question left Emily in tears. She looked at Ethan and admitted that she had chosen him because of one heartbreaking mistake she made that night. She said she lived every day with regret, watching him grow while knowing the truth. Ethan felt betrayed, but he also saw the pain in her eyes. Then Emily revealed the final reason she stayed silent for so many years. She was afraid her reputation would be tarnished, and later end up in jail. After the truth came out, both families faced the hardest decision of their lives. Ethan has 2 families who love him, and he refused to abandon either one. Richard promised he would always be his father, while Sarah and Michael promised to make up for the years they lost. Months passed, and the brothers slowly built the relationship they were denied for so many years. They shared childhood stories, dreams, and memories from 2 completely different lives. Ethan still carried the pain of losing so much time. But he chose forgiveness because the truth finally gave everyone a chance to heal. Richard, Sarah, Michael, and Victoria learned that forgiveness could not change the past, but it could create a better future. At least everyone knows the truth now and embraced togetherness. The final moment came when both families gathered together for the first time without secrets between them. Emily apologized to everyone for the pain she has caused. She knew forgiveness would take time, but she was grateful the truth had finally been revealed. Jonathan hugged his brother, realizing that, although their childhood was stolen, their future was still theirs. After decades of lies, the twins were finally home. Do you really think forgiveness was the best choice? Or should Nurse Emily have been arrested? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to VSP Vision for more emotional stories, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Thank you for watching.